So welcome, Prash. It is so good to have you on board this amazing 3 days.
Hello, hello.
Yes, it is. It is. And those of you who are joining us, we've got about 20 people here. I know it's going to go, the numbers will go up. So we give it about a minute or two for everybody to join us. We are a minute earlier today, and that is a special reason for it. So as you all know, that Kajo's Healthy Kitchen has really worked in a very intuitive way, but also feeling the energies, the right energies with the people that we bring on board. And Prash is one of the person, I mean, I'm a biggest fan of him, but I also really like what he does and what he gives out to the people. And what he attracts actually, because if you listen to him, if you follow Prash, you know that everything he does comes out from the heart and is felt in your hearts. I definitely feel it. So there are so many things that we have in common, but one thing that he always talks about is Bhagavad Gita, and that somehow I have kind of connected with Prash. And Prash is also very lucky guy, because he turned 50. We need to tell people this, right? So happy birthday to Prash. And I'm going to sing you a little song here. So before we get started live, this is a special one for you, Prash. I hope you like it. So I'm going to start, and then Pauli, you do your in the middle.
Oh, right? Goodness. Okay. All right then.
बारे बारे दिल ये गाए तुम जियो हजारों साल ये मेरी है आरज़ू. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Prash. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Namaste, thank you. And Pauli, a special well done for doing the haha.
You know, it's such a much better version than happy birthday to you, isn't it? It's got so much fun and energy to it. Mind you, the first part of it that goes on for about 4 minutes before any words are spoken, isn't it?
You know, there is
the candles have gone out and the cake by the time you get into actually singing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does. But you know, it's funny that since we're all kind of spiritually conscious people, that what's kind of cool is that, you know, in my tradition, a lot of my friend circles, we sing the first part, but then we go, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, may you never take birth again. Happy birthday to, right? We don't want to take birth again in this material world. Spiritual people don't want to come back. They want to go back to a place where there is no suffering on this material world. So we say, may you never take birth again. Happy birthday to you. So, yeah, that's Bhagavad Gita, right? That's Bhagavad Gita right there. Right. So nice to be here, and thank you. Yeah, it doesn't feel like I've turned 50, and I'm fortunate. You know, I'm in the company of people who are youthful themselves, present company. So I feel youthful. Thank you.
Right. So
good stuff. All right, so let's give you Prash's official kind of bio intro, so that everybody knows what a cool guy we got on the call. So I'm going to have to read this a little bit here because it's a big one. So Prash is an international well-being, empowerment, and leadership expert, coach, and speaker who hosts a 5-star rated podcast show called Urban Spirituality, and is the CEO of Stress to Success. And so he's worked with global and local corporates, startups, and high achievers for over 25 years, reaching many thousands and thousands of people globally through the podcast, events, and retreats. So his long-standing experience is in well-being practices, spiritual growth, peak performance, and emotional intelligence has resulted in a unique style of coaching and consulting that blends unconventional wisdom with real-world pragmatism. Gosh, that's quite an intro, isn't it?
Yeah, I wrote that with a glass of organic Argentinian coffee.
So welcome, Prash. It's fantastic. And Prash is going to talk to us today about something that I'm kind of, in what I'm doing now, experiencing it a lot with people, and that is self-sabotage. So we're going to hand straight over to Prash now to give us the big lowdown on what he means by self-sabotage and how he can help.
Yeah, let's do that. And let's give this a little bit of, thank you, Pauli, and thank you, Kajal. Let's give this a little bit of context. Folks, look, we can all, I think, relate to having a time in our lives where we've undermined our own goals, or we've gotten in our own way through sometimes an often inherent tendency to, you know, self-sabotage, right? So we may not have called it self-sabotage, but we've all had that feeling where we've kind of put our own foot in it, or put the brakes into something that we're actually trying to do. We've gotten in our own way. So when these things happen, we've got to look at two important factors, two important questions that we've got to ask ourselves. Why and how we get in our own way when we seek to achieve what matters the most. Why and how. And that's what I want to cover in this little session. We'll very briefly, as a quick synopsis for those of you who have come in, we'll look at a little bit about why we get in our own way to derail our success. We'll then look at deconstructing a little bit the mechanics of how we self-sabotage. And then thirdly, we'll look at some practical steps to actually stop self-sabotage and realign ourselves to that kind of path of success that we actually want. And I love this quote that Jim Carrey, the Hollywood actor, cited, and it really stuck with me, and I want to share it with all of you. Jim Carrey said, "You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based on either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculously hard to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it." That's crazy, right? So why does this happen? Why do we get in our own way? What causes us to be this way? That's what we want to tackle first. So let's look at why we do this. To understand self-sabotage, we want to understand the common ways that it actually shows up for us. How does it show up for us? There are several ways that it shows up for us, and let's look at those several ways. Firstly, there are kind of three flavors of how it shows up. But before we go to how it shows up, let's just quickly cover why it shows up. Self-sabotage is actually a protection mechanism. What it's trying to do is it's trying to stop ourselves from being hurt or feel pain or fear. And that pain could be physical pain, it could be emotional pain, relationships, rejections at job interviews, spiritual pain because you've lost somebody and you don't want to face up to something. All of these things are likely to cause pain for us. And because they could cause pain, our subconscious mind has a tendency, it's hardwired, you can say, to try to protect us from experiencing that pain. Unfortunately, the mechanisms through which it does protection sometimes are very unhelpful to us. Sometimes they're good. So here's a good example. You stick your hand in a boiling hot pot of water. You don't want to leave it there too long. A touch of it and you know, I'm never going to go back there again. That's good. Now the subconscious has an imprint, a memory to know that don't place your hand in hot water, boiling hot water. Not a good idea. But sometimes and guys, obviously you guys are in the well-being space, you're in the wellness space, you work with people, you're coaches, you know how important it is for your clients, as it is for my clients, to be able to sit with the pain, to work through the pain, to go through the pain. Pauli, you're a yoga teacher, so you know about how it is. You've got to sit with that stretch, sit into the asana, lean into the asana, work through the asana, let the asana stretch you, right? So let the pain teach us. We don't do that enough. And that's because self-sabotage kicks in. That's why it's trying to protect us. What we've got to do is to make the distinction and learn where self-sabotage is happening and therefore it's unhelpful to us versus where something's actually trying to protect us. And you learn that through meditation, through different practices. You learn to listen to your inner voice, not just using these eyes, but the third eye, our inner voice, our intuition, intuition. Look at the word inner. tuition in. It's inner tuition. It ain't coming from the universities. This ain't coming at no Harvard Law School or some big bank. I spent 30 years in banks, and I spent 5 years at uni, 4 years at uni. I didn't learn as much as I'm doing now, because the inner journey allows us to appear in the world as a more realistic person. God, I'm rabbiting here, but I'm passionate about this.
Yeah,
right? We want to bring our inner side out. But we don't do that. So when we rely on our intuition, when we're taking control back, we're taking charge of our feelings. And when we listen to our intuition, our third eye, we listen with our inner ears, we're able to start to recognize whether something that's coming up, that resistance to achieving that goal, that resistance to making that date, the resistance to investing in that thing, taking that career move, hopping in that relationship, coming out of that relationship, whatever it is, that resistance that you feel, you learn to discern whether that resistance is due to self-sabotage, or is it your intuition and your inner guidance saying, hey, it's time. It's time. And then you learn to know which of the two it is. So that hopefully helps you to understand, firstly, part one of these three things we're covering, why these things show up. And the possibility of learning to distinguish between when our self-sabotage is speaking versus when our inner guide is speaking. You can call it our inner critic versus our inner sage. That's a nice kind of brain tattoo for you guys. God, I'm loving this. Thank you. All right. You see, this is why I gave up corporate. I know now why I gave up 30 years of corporate, because I want to do this. I don't care about whether the money comes or not, you know? Screw the 6 figures. 5 figures. I don't care. This is where it's at. Changing people's lives. Yeah. Speaking honestly, man, I'm feeling it now. Okay, I'm jazzed up.
Come on.
Jazzed up.
On. Keep going.
Thank you. Right. So now, point number 2. How does it show up? How does self-sabotage show up? I want to give you 3 ways that self-sabotage shows up. 3 common ways that self-sabotage shows up. The way number 1 that self-sabotage may show up in your life with that thing or whatever you're doing. P for procrastination. Procrastination.
I hate that word.
Procrastination. Right? Number 1 is procrastination, right? And procrastination comes up in all kinds of ways, and it tries to justify what you're doing. Procrastination. So what happens is this. Procrastination may come up because you feel that the thing that you want to try and achieve, the goal that you're trying to achieve, to achieve that goal will be too painful. Or for some of us, the success that will come with achieving that goal will be too painful. Sometimes it's the fear of the journey. Sometimes it's the fear of success. Either way, you end up procrastinating because you don't want to go through that journey. You don't want to feel that success. So procrastination kicks in. When procrastination kicks in, man, it's hard to shine. It's hard to then move out of procrastination and shift your... I have a course, by the way, called From Procrastination to Productivity, and maybe I'll mention it at the end, guys, where you can get it. It's a short course, and that will help you shift out of procrastination. But know that the first of these 3 self-sabotage behaviors is procrastination. It shows up and it tries to stop you because it feels that the pain of going through that journey or the result that you'll get is too painful. So it just doesn't want to do it. Procrastination. So now you know this, right? You're all tuned in or you're watching this on the replay. Now you know. Watch out for procrastination coming up, and it will often disguise itself by saying, yeah, you're comfortable where you are. You don't need that pay rise. Who needs that? Who needs that relationship anyway? Man, she's too much hard work. Forget about it. They'll come up with all kinds of ways to try and trick you. So listen for the excuses that the mind is coming up with and disguising them very beautifully, right? Like some of your decorations, right, Kajal? Disguising it as something nice, but it's actually procrastination. All right, number 1. Number 2, the second way in which self-sabotage often shows up frequently for people is negative self-talk or negative thinking. What are we talking about? Let's think of some example words. Kajal, Paul, you'll know this. Kajal, you know this. I've witnessed your sharing of your life story, right? I'm not good enough. I'll never be that. You'll never be that. You can't get there. You're 50 plus. How can you ever teach yoga? How can you change your career and do this? You won't do this. I'm not good enough, not smart enough, and not beautiful enough. I'm not this, I'm not that. You notice the common thread here? All these things are happening. Now, they may have started with people saying it outside, and now it's come inside. So you don't need people to say it outside. Now your machines your machine, aka the mind, right? Bhagavad Gita says, Jantarirudhai Mayaya. The mind is running this machine called the body, and the machine is a thought machine. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, 5,000 years old wisdom. Somebody had it right. And so, you know, what's going on here is the mind is trying to trick you and say, nah, it's, you know, you're not good enough, you're this. The mind is doing that on autopilot. You don't need no one else outside to tell you no more. You've got your own perfectly beautiful inner critic, right? Harassing the shit out of you, pardon my language, all day. When you don't need it, when you need it, all the time, right? So just the fact that we're having this discussion and you're listening to it, guys, means you're going to now slightly be more aware of when that inner critic shows up, right? Awareness is the first part of transformation. We know this. We all know this. Basic coaching, whichever coaching methodology or religion or whatever subculture we follow, we need to know that. So we kick in by recognizing when our inner critic is showing up, and it does that through negative self-talk. And those are the examples. I'm not this, I'm not that, I won't ever be this. When you hear that tonality, that language, recognize that your inner critic has happened. The moment you recognize that's your inner critic playing, you create an opportunity. You create an opportunity to do something different, to change, to ignore your inner critic, to say, there's my inner critic again. Do you notice the big difference here? It's very subtle, but it's very powerful.
Yeah.
In the first scenario, we're saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'll never be that. I'll never have that. It's I. In the second one, it's, oh, there it goes. There's my inner critic. He or she is telling me I'm not going to do this. He or she is telling me I'm not going to have that. You've suddenly separated yourself from your thought, yourself from your inner critic. The moment you separate yourself from your inner critic, now you can see who's in charge. Now you know that inner critic is owned by you. You are not the inner critic. That's something else.
Yes.
Once you create that separation, God, I'm loving this, man. Once you create that separation, right?
Me too.
Damn, I'm loving this. I know I'm loving it because I'm just speaking what comes to my heart. I don't even care if people like it or not or follow it or not. I just want to share it because something somewhere is going to help somebody. You know what I mean?
That's all that matters.
We love it. And we've got about 80 people live with us. They're all loving it. You're having lots of hearts here. So it's good. Thank you.
Thank you. So folks, recognize your inner critic. That is the second way in which self-sabotage popularly shows up. And when you find it, I've given you the solution or a solution. Catch it and say, hey, there goes my inner critic again. I'll just pause for a second, let it have its yap, and then you just carry on and do something, right? Some of you are married or dating people like this, right? Then they're talking beautiful things and you're like, yeah. You're pretending like you're listening. Come on, man. We do this with people in real life, right? We're on corporate, right? You're in business calls and you're just like, you're not really listening. You're just, right? So do the same with your inner critic. Let your inner critic have its little say and then just pass it away. Then you can act from a place of empowerment rather than let the inner critic disempower you. All right, way number 2. All right, number 3. It's another P. P for not pakora. This ain't no kajal. This ain't no kajal cooking food class, right? I'm talking about perfectionism. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Listen, let me give you something right here, which I had to learn the hard way because I used to be a perfectionist for a long time. You might tell from my eyebrows. I'm just kidding. I used to be a perfectionist for a long time.
There's still a little bit of, you can't let go of.
A little bit of self-deprecation, right? Keeps you humble, right? Anyway, P for perfectionism. Let me say this, real talk. It's good to aspire for excellence, not for perfection. Excellence is good. Perfection, slippery slope. So what happens is, a lot of times, any venture, any goal, any aspiration that we're trying to do that we end up getting self-sabotaged by is because we're too busy trying to get the perfect version. Folks, those of you who are tuned in, who you run your own businesses or are solopreneurs, business owners, how many people do you know, maybe you personally, because I know me, how many times did you try and get your website perfect and all light? You wanted the blue colors there and the gold there. You want the logo just right there. And then you want the shot to be beautiful. And by the time it comes 6, 8, 12 months have gone past and you still ain't got nothing. You ain't going to be in the visitor. Do you know what I mean? What's up? And we all do this. I'm going to get myself right. I'm going to get, but I got to dress perfect before I go out and meet that girl or guy. Now what about your heart? What about your soul? Just walk out and be, you know what I'm saying? So better to be a little bit imperfect, better to be a little bit off and aspire for excellence rather than perfectionism. And I teach this in my coaching, and I teach the same principle in personal coaching as well as I do with corporates. And I tell leaders in organizations sitting there, I said, you're foisting your perfectionism on your team. That's why they're suffering. You're driving the team to the ground. You're stressing them out because you want them to be perfect. You want them to have shit high KPIs and do this and do that. Stop asking for perfection and look for excellence. Find the people in your team, cultivate their strengths, and then play to their strengths. Don't look for perfectionism. Look for excellence. So when you shift your perspective from perfectionism to excellence, when you aspire for excellence and recognize, like in project management, that you do this approach called agile. You start a little bit and then you get the feedback, then you do a bit more, then you get the feedback. When you take that approach, when in your goal or aspiration, whatever you're self-sabotaging previously, what you start to do is you start to make tangible progress because you're pursuing excellence and not perfection. It means that you get yourself off the starting line. You can start. So those are the three ways through which most commonly self-sabotage happens. There are others, folks, but these are the three most popular ones, given the time that we have on this. So we've covered why it shows up, self-sabotage. We've covered which ways it shows up, how it shows up most popularly. And then let's now talk a little bit about what we can do about it. So firstly, let's look at one thing we can do is try to identify the root cause. And I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of this because this is like coaching in itself. It could go into a lot of coaching sessions. What I mean by finding the root cause is when you find yourself sabotaging, go and ask yourself why you're self-sabotaging, and you'll get an answer. You normally want to do this when you're not distracted, you're by yourself, you don't have any phones or distractions. Sit with it and ask yourself, why am I distracted? Or why am I self-sabotaging, rather? And you'll get an answer. When you get the answer, say, well, why is that? And you'll get another answer. You go, okay, well, why is that? What you're doing is you're being your own coach. In that moment, in those few minutes, what you're doing is you're recursively using the power of why to get down a couple of layers to find the real why. You get my drift, guys? Because once you get the real why here, sometimes the why that you're not doing it is way different to, why you're not actually doing it, right? Why you think it is over here compared to the 3 or 4 or 5 times down here. Then you get to that real why. And guys, this, your coaches, you know all this, right? But I'm speaking to the audience here. Like, guys, when we get down to that level, that's powerful because at that point, we understand the real why. And when you look at the why in the context of what it really is, not what you think it is up here, because you've done this without distraction, then you have the power to challenge that why. Like, hey, what, hang on, you mean the reason why I'm too scared of giving a presentation in public or doing a speech in public is because my dad used to laugh at me, or my nephew, my cousins used to laugh at me when I was 6 and I did my birthday speech? You mean that's why? I'm not even that kid anymore.
Yeah.
What? And my nephews, they're all my mates and they love me. I mean, they may have laughed at me then, they were unkind, but they're not the same person now. Why am I getting held back by that version of my nephew who was laughing at me? And my dad's not even alive anymore. Why the hell am I running that program? Yeah. Boom. Once you get that why, you can disempower it. And when you disempower it, you can now start to get the momentum and overcome the self-sabotage, right? So get to the root cause, number 1. Number 2, taking time for self-reflection. Yes, that involves meditation. Yes, that involves mindfulness. Yes, that involves reflection. And yes, that can involve journaling. I've said it, that big J word people don't like. Listen, man, self-reflection doesn't just have to be Baloti Warine, cross-legged in lotus position, which I think is excellent, by the way. Work with the format of self-reflection that you feel works for you at your point in life and how busy you are. Take 5 minutes to reflect. What you're doing in that reflection is asking yourself, why is it that I feel inclined to sabotage myself? So it connects with that first one. You're doing a why, now you're self-reflecting. So these two things go hand in hand. The first one, the why happens at the time when you're self-sabotaging. The second one, this self-reflection, is an ongoing thing. You do it on a weekly basis. Take 15 minutes out to check in with yourself, like you would do check in with your family members on the phone or with your loved ones in your house. We're always checking in. Check in with yourself. So that's reason number 2. And then that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, find your cheerleaders. And there are 2 cheerleaders. One is your inner cheerleader. One is an outer cheerleader. Your inner cheerleader is your sage. Just like we have an inner critic, we have a sage. The sage is, and this is how you activate your sage. You want to know how you activate your sage? This is how. Get a piece of paper, get a diary, whatever you want to do. What I want you to do right now, Tony Robbins is coming out. I mean, Tony,
Hey!
I want you to make a distinction right now. I want you to make a distinction. Let me hear an A. I want you to know. I'm not a rah-rah guy, right? But I do mean, you know, Indian.
Bring it on, Prash. Bring it on. Do
should
it.
have started in the style of Tony Robbins tonight. We're shouting at us all the way.
No. I prefer Prash tonight.
You haven't heard my Indian Sadhguru impersonation yet.
Oh.
Don't even go. Oh, yeah. I love that one. During lockdown, I've done Sadhguru all the time.
Oh my God, I love it.
So look, number 3. Here's the thing, folks.
Oh no, I was waiting for Sadhguru to come out.
Oh, okay. He'll come just if there's time. I will bring it.
Okay.
Number 3, your inner cheerleader. So that's your inner sage. So what we're doing is, how do you activate your inner sage? Make a list. Make a list of 10, 20, 30 things that you've accomplished in your life that you're proud of. And they don't have to be big things. They could be as simple as, well, I managed to pay my bill on time. I cleared my credit card debt. I managed to get my kid through school. It was pretty imperfect, but I did it.
Yeah.
I cooked that dish the other day following Kajal. It wasn't great, but I followed it. I did this, I did that. What you're doing is you're building a list of small victories that you've accomplished in your life. Why are you doing that? Because when you build that list and you write that list, you're activating the parts of your subconscious mind that are now beginning to connect and create new neural connections that allow you to think in a fresh way. We're getting into neurophysics, and we're getting into, you know, neuropsychology now. But this is what happens when you think positive thoughts. You activate parts of your brain that haven't been activated, and you start to fire new neural pathways. So when you repeatedly do this once a week and you build a little list of victories, what you're doing is you're triggering your sage. The more you trigger your sage, the more you end up in sabotage situations. Your sage is going to talk and your inner critic is going to get quieter. Am I making sense, folks?
Yeah.
What I'm saying, guys? That's what happens. So that's your inner cheerleader. And then we have our outer cheerleader. The outer cheerleader is what I call, and I say this often to coaching audience, especially in corporate, I call them your Thrive Tribe. Find your Thrive Tribe. Find the people who are in your circle. They don't have to be friends. They don't have to be family. They could be anyone, but who are genuinely affectionate towards you, who genuinely care for you, who want to see you succeed, and knock on their door and say, hey, I find myself sabotaging myself in this particular area of my life. I want to shift it. Can you just be around? If I get stuck, I may just give you a call, or if you see me doing this, can you call me out on it?
Yeah.
And that's it. So you tell a couple of people, now you're enlisting the help of your outer cheerleaders. And that way you've got your inner cheerleader when you're alone, your inner sage, and you've got your outer cheerleader who are your Thrive Tribe, the people you bring in and share with them what you're struggling with. And notice that when you do that, it's a great, when you express your vulnerability, there's magic. You've expressed it, which means that you've increased your courage, because to express your vulnerability, it takes courage, right? You have to curb your ego a little bit. That's a beautiful skill to have in life. I mean, in personal coaching, that's a great skill to have when you're working with clients, to encourage them to be more humble and increase their personal power. And second benefit you get out of it is you give the other person subtly and indirectly the permission to do the same. Like, you're showing them it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. Now they might come to you and say, hey, you know what, could you help me with this? And what a beautiful way to build relationships with people who we've grown apart from. What a beautiful way to mend relationships, to strengthen relationships, to forge relationships with your family or friends, because now you've got something together that you're helping and lifting one another up with. That for me is priceless, man. And there you go, folks. 3 tips to help you overcome sabotage. I hope that's been helpful.
Oh
My goodness. My goodness. And what an expert you are. You've literally like given us 2 minutes spare and we're going to talk on.
So before we started, I said to Pauli, Pauli, make sure you've got all the energy today saved up before this guy comes online.
Oh man.
Oh, love it,
Yeah,
love it,
fantastic
love
energy.
it.
Beautiful.
Oh, Prash, you're
Fantastic.
amazing. Love you lots. And you know what? You have given so much out to all the audience. We had over 80 people online with us, and you know, in and out, swinging in and out. People are going to watch this. This video is going to be saved on Kajol's Healthy Kitchen, and it's going to be shared across. Make sure that all of you audience share this, because this is the 3 days, you know, in support of mental health awareness. It is not just for you to harness, but it is for you to share. Just like Prash, us, all the other speakers have been sharing and giving so much out. It is also a duty of all of us as human beings, all of us, to help other people, help each other, you know. So by sharing this post, not only will you be sharing the value that Prash has given you, but you are going to be spreading the knowledge across. And that is so important. People need to have that knowledge. So much is not known. So much is not known about mental health. So much is not known about how this mindset works. And for somebody like Prash to come on board and, you know, literally give you half an hour, that power talk means the world, because that today will make you think. You will sleep on it, and it will make you think of everything that he has said. And even if you take 5% of what he is given, you are going to be a winner, you know, because it's a jewel, right?
I couldn't have said it better ourselves. I say that each one teach one, each one teach one, each one reach one. And that's how we can share and give this out. I've been doing my own thing on LinkedIn, sharing across LinkedIn for Mental Health Awareness Week. Just the other day, I did one on how we are affected by gaslighting, by people who are narcissists. There's a video on that. So again, you know, I would encourage everyone to share what is happening in these 3 days that Kajol and Pauli have very kindly put together, and you know, share. And I'll happily, with your permission, Kajol, Pauli, I'll let everyone know where they can, because I did promise, where they can get that procrastination course. And I guess you guys can leave the links.
But also, if you can just announce where people can reach you, you know, and you know, all the links and everything, just mention it. And then of course we will add the link to this, edit this video, and then just add there as well.
Sure, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm there as LinkedIn/in/wellbeing expert. So, but Prash Kotecha, Guju surname, Prash Kotecha on LinkedIn. And I'm, you know, pretty active on there, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm sharing. I also do lives there. And then Facebook, obviously, you know, Kajol, Facebook is the Mantra Therapy page. So come along and say hello at Mantra Therapy. And of course, as I mentioned, the Urban Spirituality podcast, which you can find on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the usual stuff. And I guess last but not least, if you guys want to have some one-on-one, and if you'd like for us to work together or explore working together, either through your team and your leadership, through corporate, or, you know, I take a handful of personal clients one-on-one these days. So if you want to work one-on-one, or if you want to work with corporates in your team, drop me a line. We can have a conversation and see what we can do for you and everyone around you as well in these areas of well-being, emotional intelligence, leadership, stress management, because I think these areas right now are so needed and so perfect that you're doing this right now in these next 3 days. So I can't thank you enough. I also want to do a shout out to all the presenters, because I've been watching and tuning in, and everybody is coming in with a golden heart. Yes. And giving beautiful light, and I'm just privileged to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Prash. You're a superstar. It's been amazing speaking to you. Thanks for coming along. And
you're welcome.
On behalf of myself and Kajol, go on.
Before you go, you can, I promised Kajol. So Kajol, all right, you guys can ask me a question as Sadhguru, and I'm going to do my Sadhguru impersonation. I need some glasses or something just as a prop, okay?
I love it. Oh my God, that's
I just my glasses, right? Okay, so ask me a question as Sadhguru.
okay.
Go ahead. Any question about anything?
Okay.
Anything.
Go ahead.
No, God, you.
Okay. Okay. So Sadhguru, why is it that couples who love each other so much always end up arguing and always end up arguing? Why do they do this?
You see, first you have to understand what is a couple. All of you think that you're in a couple, you're in a relationship. Actually, you come here like solo. You know, those of you who remember Star Wars, do you remember Han Solo? He came by himself and he left by himself. He didn't get the girl. So first of all, you have to understand that you are by yourself. You are an island. The second thing you have to understand is you have to understand the art of holding the remote control.
Oh,
Now everybody is arguing on the remote control. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no? Now you must be knowing we have our Mr. Pauli in the house. Look at him. He's a very nice man. Unfortunately, he is flushed because he doesn't take enough iron. He's very pale. I don't know which part of India he comes, but he's completely pale. Doesn't matter. Can you notice that in front of this beautiful lady, can you see that he will become like a lamb? He cannot control the remote. When the TV, the remote has to go to Miss Kajal. Yes or no?
Yes.
So if you want to learn to stop the arguments in your life, if you are a man, please give your remote control to the lady. If you are a lady, if you are another man and you are the lady in the male relationship, jo bhi hai, I am very free, I am a modern guru. Whatever you are, that is for yourself. If you are a lady, dress beautifully, smile nicely, and spend your time in the kitchen, because actually I'm a little sexist. Thank you very much. There you go.
Yeah. And all along, I thought Sadhguru would say, just take out the batteries of that remote control.
No, Sadhguru.
Dude, you could have fun with this, right? You know I'm not going to say that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Prash, and thank you for all the viewers for joining us. Share this chat with Prash. Please keep sharing. I'm going to laugh it off. Okay, Deepa is saying that was an excellent impression of Sadhguru. Loved it so much. Fantastic. That is good. Well done.
You,
lots of love and hope to see you soon again. Bye.
Lots of love. Take care, everyone. Namaste.
Bye.